Hello and welcome to The Last Word on Spurs. We hope you're keeping very, very safe and well. Thank you so much for joining us for instant reaction to Tottenham Hotspur smashing 6 past Leicester, 6 goals to 2. We're joined by a wonderful panel here who are going to be giving you all their thoughts on all things Tottenham, the result, and even more of what we've just witnessed over 90 and I think 6 minutes. Crazy game. I think we've already done a podcast on the basis of watching that game. So absolutely delighted to be having a top tier panel to look back at that game with me. First up, he's been regular on Last Word on Spurs throughout this season. I know he's been up late night due to a child, not due to Antonio Conte's tactics. And that means we've got the wonderful Sammy Powell back on Last Word on Spurs. Sam, love to be back on Last Word on Spurs. How are you?
Well, yeah, I'm great. Thanks, Ricky. After that, obviously, yeah, I'm still a bit tired from the newborn, but I mean, that's one way to wake you up, isn't it? Wow.
Oh, literally.
Literally mind-blowing. Bodies everywhere, goals everywhere, just absolutely electric. And looking forward to addressing it with the guys tonight. So lovely to see you all.
Yeah, absolutely. And delighted to be welcoming back 2 of our favourite returning guests to Last Word on Spurs. Listen, they've been on during the dark times. They've been on during the happy times. And I'm hopeful to think this again is another happy time. One man looking at the bottom left-hand side of my screen, I think he was on, we can't really say, during the Nuno period. And Marcus did survive it, which means he does get a pass to come back, of course, if you do survive Nuno. We've got the wonderful sports presenter, Marcus Buckland, back on Last Word on Spurs. Marcus, heart settled down after that?
Well, listen, I wish to remind you, the last time I was on, I did a whole mathematical conundrum which explained how we would finish in the top 4. We did. I feel as though I have been vindicated in every single way. I've got 9 out of 10 positive points tonight. We will, of course, have to discuss a couple of less positive ones. But yes, I'm buzzed. I am so excited. I'm in Leeds for various reasons. There were some Leicester fans in our sports bar getting very irate.
Oh.
It was one of those great nights where you could just shout and bellow and feel very proud to be a Spurs fan.
Absolutely. Yeah, I totally agree. Listen, there's lots to go through tonight. There's pros, there's cons, and as always on Last Word on Spurs, we'll be dissecting it, breaking it down for all you lovely lot. There's already so many of you joining us already for this show, so thank you so much as always for all of your incredible support for Last Word on Spurs. Now, do you know what? I know a man that would never let me down, even if Spurs are going to let me down tonight, and I know he would have always given us some optimism, some hope, and that's the wonderful British writer and actor. Delighted to have him back on Last Word on Spurs. We've got the wonderful TJ Ramini. TJ, thanks so much. A blessing for your presence. How are you, my friend?
What an introduction, Ricky. My goodness, I've certainly had worse reviews. Like everybody else, I'm sure, like every other Tottenham fan on the planet, and certainly the chaps on this pod, buzzed, exhilarated, exhausted, and just raring to go. I mean, what a fortunate episode to be on right after an 8-goal extravaganza. But like Marcus said, you know, pros, but also lots of cons, I think, to discuss, which is, I think we're such an interesting team this season. So I'm raring to go. Can't wait to discuss.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, I must make this point, as always on Last One on Spurs, that whenever Spurs suffer a defeat, we end up getting about 60, 70 questions, which then our team then try to unravel in the space of 45 minutes to put together and throw them to me. So I always say, when Spurs win, it makes my job a lot easier, and the questions are limited. I think they had about 15 come in. So it's always lovely when you get Spurs winning, because there's less questions to ask. So listen, there's still lots to go through. We've only got a 6-2 game thriller to go through. So, do you know what, Sam, let's start with you. What a way for Spurs to bounce back after a midweek defeat as they beat Leicester by 6-2. Sonny, the hero, and ended his goal drought with a real sublime hat-trick. What did you make of it, Sam?
It was unbelievable, wasn't it, Rick? To be honest, when the penalty, there was drama from the start, wasn't there, with the penalty? Hugo off his line, which was a correct decision by the referee. Obviously, we don't like to see it when it's against us, but I would have been moaning if it was. And yeah, I mean, you've got to applaud Conte as well for the decisions that he's made. He pulled the strings there. For me, Harry Kane, man of the match, if Son didn't come on and put 3 huge nails into Brendan Rodgers' coffin, to be honest. It was absolute wonder stuff from him. Yeah, I was blown away by the game. All the players, Bentancur again, he deserved that, didn't he? The way he tucked it in, he was never going to miss it. Eric Dyer, great answer to his England critics as to why he's on the team. And I was really happy to see Kulusevski starting, because he makes that impact, that pace to the game. And one of the things that I picked up on early doors is Sanchez with that silly challenge at the beginning. It's easy to You know, the haters come out on social media, don't they, straight away? Why is he on? And you know what? You can clearly tell that Conte has told the players that if they lose the ball, they need to show everything to get it back. You could tell that all the way through the game. That's exactly what Sanchez was doing, and he made a mistake. But the effort was completely different to what we saw midweek in the Champions League. He obviously put a rocket up the backside, and the response was fantastic from the players. But there was a few gaps, the loose passes. You're not going to get away with those against clubs like City, which I'm sure we're going to address on the show.
Yep.
You know, especially in the top 6 teams, you would have been punished. And James Maddison absolutely stand out, bringing Leicester together. So we did well to turn up the cogs in the 60th minute and show them what it's all about. But yeah, I mean, Heung-min Son, as I'm shocked, just honestly, if you had a camera on me, Ricky, at the time, I was the relief and the emotion. I was expressing it for every single Spurs fan out there. You know, we all wanted to see it happen, didn't we? And, you know, he gave Gabriel Jesus a 6-game start, and now he's equaled his tally in 14 minutes. So have a bit of that.
He was phenomenal. We'll come on to Son, because, again, a massive talking point, of course, Sonny not starting the game. Marcus, has come over to you, because, again, there's always 2 sides to every game, as Paul says it on the screen. A game of 2 halves. Leicester really dominating that first half. Maddison pulling the strings. Conte making 2 early perfect substitutions, which, again, on Last Word on Spurs, I think, listen, since the start of the season, I think we've always been looking at the case with Conte. Could he change a game earlier? Is there a need to change the game earlier? Certainly, obviously, changing it around today in terms of the lineup, which we'll come on to. But if we're being honest, Marcus, a crazy game that could have really gone either way until Son came on, scoring a 14-minute hat-trick. I mean, he's very much back in his groove. Spurs up to 2nd in the league. I just saw, obviously, again, another great stat here from Rob C, who says, look, 7 wins in a row at home. We are turning this place into a fortress. Overall, Marcus, thoughts?
Yeah, overall, I love the fact that we obviously are a very, very hard side to beat at home. We've got an amazing stadium. And I think initially when we moved in, a lot of sides were inspired when they came there and we weren't producing the results that we wanted. Now we are. It was a crazy game. You're right. I mean, you can see the goal inside the first few minutes. I was intrigued by the point about trying to regain possession as quickly as possible, because Sanchez made 3 errors in the space of about 20 seconds, culminating in the penalty. Lloris makes a great save, and there was the graphic as well as to where Tielemans was going with each penalty. So when he has to do it again, you're thinking, well, where's he going to go this time? To be fair, that was an unstoppable second penalty. And then even we go 2-1 up, and I'm thinking, you know, we need more than this. And I thought at half-time, to be fair, a 2-2 scoreline was about right. But the way we did stride forward in the second half, and obviously everyone wanted Sonny to score, and he does it unbelievably well. It was. I think in many ways it summed up the way we played all season, in that it was exciting. I don't think we were bossing the match as we would have liked to, and I think defensively there are some questions still very much to be answered. But it was just such fun to watch. It was unbelievable to watch, and for Sonny to come on and do what he did, I mean, that's a fairy tale story come true. So for me, it was one of those great classic 90 minutes. Yeah, there are questions to be answered, but I just found that from the first minute to the last, just epic. And let's enjoy it while we can.
Agree. Yeah, and to Greg on the screen there, yeah, you're right, Greg. Conte definitely watches this show, of course, because he had to change it earlier. That's exactly what he done. I mean, we've been, like I say, on Last One on Spurs, bemoaning the fact, change the game earlier, change the 11. Yeah. I mean, the man's listening. We know he's a big Last One on Spurs fan, Antonio Conte, of course he is. TJ, coming over to you. Spurs go 2nd in the table, and obviously since the start of March, Spurs have now picked up more points than any other Premier League team. We are unbeaten in our last 13 Premier League matches. It is our best ever start to a season. And again, I did see someone putting it, I think it's our best ever start since David Pleat was in charge back in the 86-87 team. Now, again, wow. 2 sides to every story. How do you feel about that game coming away 6-2? Satisfied?
Satisfied is not the word. I mean, again, we're all just buzzing, aren't we? We're all, do young people still say shook? You know, we're all shook. You know, I certainly am shook. And, unashamedly admitted before we came on the air that I was literally wiping away tears about 20 minutes ago. You know, Sonny is very dear to me, and I've said a million times that he's my favourite Tottenham player, and is by some distance. But we'll come back to him. my feelings are probably echoed by most Tottenham fans, where we're not playing well. We're just not. But we're getting results, and so of course there's that famous adage that that's the sign of a champion-winning team. Like I'm not subscribed to that. I was thinking this morning, actually, at half-time, I was going to make myself a little coffee at half-time, and I was thinking, this is a team that's talking about winning things, and there was a lot of talk as well about Hugo's been with us for 10 years, deserves to lift a trophy as Tottenham captain. And I'm thinking, what could we possibly win? Playing in the way that we've been playing, what could we possibly win? But I love being proved that I know very little about football, because I think that something's going to go one way and then it goes another way. And I don't think any of us really know. And the football gods and all that kind of thing. There's so many intangibles. I'm delighted with the 3 points, and I am of the opinion, I don't think we're playing brilliantly, but listen, I'll stagger across the line, beaten and bloodied all day long. If we have to lift it with one hand, the other one in a sling, with a crutch under your arm, I'll take it. I want to win. And I think that's what Conte is going to bring us. Before anything else, is this adamantine belief that winning the game is everything. That's the most important stat.
Yeah, absolutely. You can see me glancing down. We are just waiting for Antonio Conte's post-match presser, which we're going to bring, obviously, to you live reaction from in terms of him talking to the press, and we'll bring that through to you. Just a couple of our listener questions, more statements that we say now. Again, I repeat it at the start of the show. Lovely when you get a win like that, because there's several less statements and questions that come in. First one coming in from Drew N17, who said, will we ever forgive a manager who lost 6 in a row and not want him to be sacked? Jamie March says, nice to get 3 points and see Sonny get back in the goals. But does anyone else feel we are still getting away with it a little bit? Well, listen, we'll come on to that, Jamie, throughout the show. Ben Taylor says, what a juicy game for this panel to dissect. Why are we still so shaky in that first half of games? Was it a change in that formation that made us look more solid? Very excited to see how many more Sonny scores in the next 5 games to come. Andy Drummond says, despite the score, we still played for me in that first half very, very poorly. Then we switched it to a 3-5-2 and we absolutely ripped Leicester apart. Great to see Sonny scoring again. And my question is, can we see that 3-5-2 moving forward? Also, great goal from myself. So thank you so much for that. Of course, the doppelganger of Ricky Bentoncourt. Lovely to get my first goal of the season and come back to her, of course, for the pod, which we try and do as always. John Hardy says, do you feel that the move to put Basuma back in the 3 was massive in order to get Son those chances? I promise you, John, we are going to cover that when we do speak about Basuma during the show. And again, Kevin kind of putting that point across. Conte's system of wing-backs, is that working? We did see, of course, throughout the game, Conte interchanging both Sessegnon and Perisic, which I thought was quite an effective move to make, because Leicester weren't too sure how Spurs were going to set up. So we are going to dissect all that to come. But before we do, just a quick reminder here on Last Word on Spurs that we are absolutely delighted to be sponsored by the Beavertown Corner Pin, and that is the Beavertown bang opposite your south stand. Now, we are very excited to be bringing to you, hopefully, a live event from that stadium, which will then lead to, hopefully, a number of live shows coming your way. Now, of course, next up for Tottenham is just the small matter of the North London derby, away, of course, at the Emirates. And you can book your seat right now to get yourself a televised away game there at Beavertown by going to www.beavertownbrewery.co.uk/pages/corner-pin. Now, just to allay any fears, I know there were reports this week about the game being potentially postponed. Nothing further of an update yet from any train or rail company with regards to the postponement of the game. Of course, listen, we've already lost one fixture last week due to, obviously, the sad death of the Queen. So, again, on Last One on Spurs, we'll keep you upmote and posted if there's any further news with regard to that. But as far as we're concerned, that game is going to go ahead, and probably for a good cause for Tottenham, of course, because of the nature of Spurs winning today, going into that game with a win. But listen, Sam, let's cut back round to you, because I think before the game, what was dominated is how Conte was going to set up in terms of his lineup, in terms of his tactics. We're going to share them on the screen for you right now, because we have got, obviously, some injury news that we are going to bring to you. So there were, for Spurs, 4 changes for Antonio Conte as we welcome bottom side Leicester to the Premier League. Now, the Italian admitted, of course, in his pre-match press conference that he was likely to change it up and give some much-needed fresh energy to the squad. He did state that Ryan Sessegnon, Dejan Kulusevski deserved to play, and both of those gentlemen came into the starting lineup. Emerson Royale was handed a rest after starting the last 17 games for Spurs, and that also then came to seeing the Croatian Ivan Perisic in on the right-hand side with Cess on the left. So it's the first time we saw the guys actually operating together as a pair during this game. In terms of defence, in-game Clement Longley, who was in for the injured Ben Davis, who we're going to come on to in a moment and give you some more interest on that injury. And Davinson Sanchez in for Christian Romero, who played every single match since returning from injury. Sam, overall, happy with the team when that came out?
Yeah, really happy, Ricky. Sessegnon, we want to see some more of him, and I've said it before. He just needs to get his final product finished as well, doesn't he? He does bring pace to the game, and I think he's going to learn a lot from Perisic. I mean, the difference between him getting down the wing and putting a ball in is when his ball goes in, for me, it's just pinged in. He's not putting his head up and looking for a player. When you see Kane, Kulusevski, Perisic, these experienced players, whenever they're feeding it into that box, they are looking for a head. They're looking for a foot. And hopefully Sessegnon picks that up and gets a little bit more experience from it, because I am a fan. I have been pretty hard on him, saying he needs to earn his big boy wings, and from that he'll only get it in big boy games. But yeah, I was happy to see that. And also Son on the bench. It's bittersweet, isn't it? He's not been performing. I know we'll come round to him as a separate entity due to what he's achieved in this particular game, but it hurts, doesn't it, not seeing him on there? And that, I'm still thinking Richarlison is in where he is, but Kane, Kulusevski, and Son, that's my starting front three, especially with Son in form. But obviously it worked. From the gaffer knows what he's doing, and this undroppable statement, let's address that, because I think he showed that. Conte's shown his belief in Son. He kept him going and kept going. He knows what he brings to the game. Let's not dismiss everything else that he brings to the game apart from scoring, which he hasn't been doing. So he made the drop and he made the start, and it worked out well. But in my opinion, there's absolutely nobody undroppable in Tottenham apart from Harry Kane, who you would be completely surprised to see drop. We've got that depth now, Ricky, haven't we? And wow, did he use it? He used the depth, and that's exactly what we've been missing for years. So I'm very, very happy with how he rotated that and switched that around. I have to say, because we're probably not going to mention him, you might have it planned, but Eric Dyer.
Don't worry, there was a plan. Yeah, I mean,
there was a plan, wasn't there?
Of course it was.
Obviously, the grief, it's the demon of social media, really. People were even slating Conte for being honest. Why don't you want a manager to be honest, so that the players feel as though they need to perform? And then next minute they're on to Son's back, then they were on to Emerson's back from the other night, which obviously wasn't the best for him, but he's clearly been a huge attribute to us. And then Dyer was getting it in the neck against Sporting, and then being selected for England. He was an absolute rock tonight. So I was really happy with the starting lineup, and really happy with how we switched it over.
Yeah, I mean, guys, just to come to you there, Marcus. I mean, like I say, team on the screen there for you. Thoughts on it? Of course, Lloris in goal. We had obviously that back. We've got obviously Sessegnon there, Longley, Dyer, Sanchez, Perisic, with that midfield duo of Bentancur, Højbjerg, ever present this season. Richarlison, Kane, Kulusevski. Overall, Marcus, was you happy with the changes Conte made, all four of them?
No, and I don't want to be too negative, but I've got a big problem with Ryan Sessegnon. I thought he was very poor tonight, both defensively and going forward. He does my head in because he's got a lot of natural ability, but to me, he pauses before he crosses the ball. He lacks a little bit of energy. I thought defensively he was a liability tonight, whether he was switched be on the left or moved to the right. And I totally agree that nobody, aside perhaps from Harry Kane, should be considered undroppable. But frankly, although he had a poorish game by his own high standards in Europe during the week, I was very surprised that Romero didn't start tonight. I'd always start him ahead of Sanchez. And okay, we're supposedly going through busy periods, but actually we didn't have a Premier League game last weekend. We haven't got one next weekend. I know there's internationals coming. I would have had Romero starting ahead of Sanchez at any time. I don't understand the whole Jed Spence situation. I know that Conte's made it clear that it wasn't one of his signings. I've seen the guy play last season, albeit at a lower level. I think he's very, very exciting, and I'm frustrated that he's not been given an opportunity. But yeah, just to go back to those two particular positions, I would like Romero to have started tonight, and I've got a real issue at the moment with Sessegnon being good enough to be in the Spurs starting 11.
it's interesting, Marcus, because again, I think a lot of people here we can see in the comments in full agreement with what you're saying there. TJ, let's come over. Yeah, I mean, I'd say, TJ, let's come over to you, because with regards to the team selection, again, I think with Conte, what's clear is that, it's never going to please everybody. There's going to be people that have different opinions about how we're lining up. And we're just going to bring that team back up there for our viewing audience. Over 800, 900 of you watching us live. So again, thank you so much for all of your incredible support for Last Word on Spurs here. Conte said actually before the game that the decision to drop Son is simply a case of rotating his forwards, and said it is not important if Son is unhappy with that call to, like I say, rotate him. TJ, happy with that team overall when you saw it?
I don't know. It's a difficult one to answer. I mean, listen, to go back to what you just said, that, you're never going to please it. I mean, if there was ever an occupation that personifies, you can't please all of the people all of the time, it's a football manager. But, Rick, you and I were talking a little bit earlier this morning that our well-publicized depth is useless unless it's utilized. So I am the kind of person, especially if we have a manager like Conte and, not a manager like Nuno or something. Like if Conte says this is the team we're playing, then I support him completely. Just want to go back to what Sam was saying and actually what you were saying as well, Rick, that, this undroppable statement and that everybody is droppable other than Kane. I would add Hugo as well to that. I would actually be more inclined to drop Kane before Hugo. I really would. And I mean, talking to another friend of mine, JB, one of my oldest mates who went to school together and everything, I know he's watching now. I mean, Hugo made 5 or 6 absolutely game-changing saves today at critical times. I know that there are good times to concede and not good times to concede. Obviously, it's never a good time to concede. But for example, Maddison was clean through, having just scored an outstanding goal and blasted it low, did everything that he could do and should do from that angle. And Hugo saved it, with his right leg. Obviously, that incredible save from Daka. He made a number of outstanding saves today and really kept us in the game at critical points. So was I happy with the team? Yes, because there's no point bringing these players in if they're not going to do the business. It's interesting hearing Marcus as well talking about Cess, because I did actually say to my friends, this is, I think, some of the best that I've seen from Cess. However, my opinion of him was so low. I don't know how and why we bought him. For me, he was such a poor player for such a long time. And so to see him at least today winning tackles and going forward, defensively, absolutely, he was bullied and he still looks lightweight.
That goal, Castagne just completely...
and he still looks like a boy against men, a lot of the time. However, if you are this prolific, talented dribbler and you have this explosive pace, I'm yet to see that. And I still have, like most Tottenham fans, I'm sure, I still have Danny Rose and Kyle Walker in my mind. I know that these are two of the best players in those positions ever to grace us with their presence at the club. And of course, for England as well, they were unplayable for a couple of seasons, couldn't get anywhere near them. And their final product, like Sam was saying, was outstanding. And they would put it on the ground, in the air, front post, near post, right on the penalty spot. I understand that these are large shoes to fill, but if we are that club that has aspirations to challenge for titles, then that level is just not good enough. I don't know enough about Dejed Spence. I'm not one of those players that I don't watch any other leagues. I remember him tearing us a new one when we played Middlesbrough in the FA Cup. That I remember very well. I walked funny for a week. But other than that, I can't speak with any great intellect as to what he will offer us. But everybody knows, again, that these two positions, our wing-back positions, are just not good enough. I think Perisic was an incredible acquisition, and I'm sure we all saw in the press.
Again, another assist today, of course.
Into saying we never should have sold him. We never should have sold him. It's almost like they were lamenting a death. The Queen just died. Give us a moment. He's an outstanding player, but defensively looked shaky today, or perhaps a little slow, or the system just hasn't quite notched together yet. And I saw Crackers on Twitter earlier just saying, we just look a little off color. It's just not quite happening. However, lots of new players. It does take time. In Conte, we trust.
Totally agree. Listen, lots of really good points there. Again, I think, just to kind of return that point, for the Conte to make that decision with regards to, like I say, the changing of Son, we have to make that point that, of course, Son scored 7 goals in 14 matches against Leicester with 5 assists. That was actually before tonight's game. That's his 3rd best goal involvement against any other club, just behind only West Ham and Southampton. But when you look at Richarlison, who obviously at the moment was in better form than Son going into the game, he had netted 5 times against Leicester with 1 assist. So again, a lot of our players seem to love playing Leicester. Of course, Harry Kane as well, which we'll come on to. He's got outrageous stats, but credit to Football London for that stat. Our bench, just to confirm today, was Forster, Emerson, Doherty, Romero, Tanganga, Basuma, Skip, Son, Hill. And like I say, as TJ alluded to there, no Jed Spence there, which again, I know it's an interesting one from Conte. The argument is, which I know many have said, of course, Ali Gold, friend of the show as well, has said, you put Spence on there, you've technically got, 4 or 5 right wing backs. But again, we have to insinuate and again clear this point up that Spence was bought as a club signing. And he was actually given as a gift to Conte, for what we understand, to be a player that would tick all the boxes, which Antonio Conte would want in a wing back. And I think there is, listen, we hope and see if we're going to see him after the international break, because there's definitely a player in there. And I'm sure as a player, he wants to show Conte what he's got. So what we will just do is we are going to go for a quick pause and go for our first break of the show for our listeners on audio. JB, obviously, listen, very close friend of TJ's there. TJ Ramini, sponsored by Tottenham Hotspur. Who else would he be sponsored by? And like I say, thank you so much for all your incredible support. We've got between 900 to 1,000 of you watching us live. So again, thank you so much for all of your incredible support for Last Word on Spurs. Guys, we've got to go into the story of the game. Bear in mind, we haven't touched that yet. But before we do, just a reminder, just an update on Ben Davies, who is going to miss around 3 weeks on the sidelines, who's also been withdrawn from international duty for Wales. We understand he's suffered a hairline fracture to the bone just underneath his knee. Now, obviously, from what we understand, this was sustained in Spurs' Champions League fixture against Sporting. Conte said he had an injury in his knee against the game against Sporting and played with the injury. Not a serious injury. I think after the international break, he'll be available. But with regards to the national team, he's not available. I'm hoping he'll be available for us after that break. So one we will keep an eye on, of course, Ben Davies, who's been, again, a real ever-present for Conte throughout the season. But obviously, Clement Longley coming in for him for this fixture. Right, Sam, this game, literally from the first 3-4 minutes, it just had drama upon it. Now, we love drama on Last One on Spurs. Saturday night drama, though, when you've got to try and recap a show, this is just... Where do we start? Penalty
I haven't
to
got a clue. I do not know.
We'll go from the start and we'll try and work our way as kind of quick, orderly fashion as possible. 8 goals, penalties to consider. Ivan Perisic booked for celebrating Heung-min Son, one of Heung-min Son's goals. How outrageous is that, for God's sake? Booked. He wasn't on the pitch. He was actually off the pitch. Penalty to Leicester early on. Both Ivan Perisic and Davinson Sanchez actually at fault for gifting Leicester, really, the ball. But Sanchez rushing in, it was rash. It was everything we were really concerned about Sanchez. I think, really, in him coming back into the team. Having said that, he has been fairly decent for Spurs and recovered, I think, quite well after that incident. But it was just on the line. Lloris saving. Then it had to be retaken in true Spursy fashion. VAR checked it. Apparently, there was a possible keeper movement. And Tillman's no mistake with the opening goal when he was retaking that penalty, Sam.
Yeah, it was a pretty electric start, wasn't it, really? Yeah, I had everything. I mean, I just even VAR as well for Sonny's goal. That my heart was in my mouth. It was just crazy. The game had everything going for it. But Benton Kerr as well, Ricky, the silent assassin. I'm going to start calling him. He's like the person that nobody talks about in a game, and he's doing everything. It's just unbelievable. I'm so glad he came up behind like a ninja, nicked the ball and tucked it away the way he did. But yeah, the start to the game was just, it's not what you want to see from Tottenham, but what you do want to see. The thing is, Ricky, sometimes I can take the draws. Dare I say I can take the losses? I don't think I can. I think I've just got too much of a fragile heart for that. But I can take it if we give everything. I just, and when we do, I'm happy. And Conte clearly, it's we're saying that there's cracks in there in the ground, and we're saying that there's faults, and that there are. To be transparent, there's a lot more issues than we're probably going to address. But we're winning. And apart from midweek, we're still doing what we're doing. We're at the top of the table. And it's unbelievable what we're achieving and the depth we've got. So, yeah, it's you've got to be happy with the performance. All I want to see, Ricky, is what Conte wants to see is these players with passion. And you look at the impact he's had, on Højbjerg and players that when, you've asked me about them, honestly. Ben Davies, we've just addressed him. I wish him a speedy recovery, but he's not good enough for Tottenham. And Højbjerg...
I think squad player, Sam. I think this I think squad player last season. I think he proved himself to be, I think, a good enough squad player. I mean, you maybe argue this season.
I know we have this conversation.
I think you maybe argue this. I think you maybe argue this season, Sam. Now we've got Longley in the team. I think again that might be ability-wise we may have stepped up there, but I think as a squad player we could do worse than Ben Davies as a backup to Longley.
Definitely.
But it's not about can we do worse, is it? It's about can we?
No, listen. And again, we're aiming. It depends what we're aiming at. If we're aiming to try and compete with Liverpool and City, maybe you'd argue Ben Davies isn't a good enough first team.
But we are competing with Liverpool and Man City. And, let's be honest with you. If fate may treat us well, we're competing with PSG and the likes of. And this is where when you stick a player of that caliber, just like Marcus was saying about Sessegnon, I'm so glad that he was that brutal because it's true. And like I said about the big boy wings, some of these players are going to get eaten alive. That's not what I'm addressing. What I'm saying is what Antonio Conte has done with them is second to none. Yeah. Phenomenal. It's just unbelievable what he's got out of some of these average players. And he's making, you look at the impact that Bentancur and Kulusevski, I know we've spoken about it many, many times, made when they came into the squad. I mean, they really sort of separated the boys from the men. But what happened was the other players really stepped up. Yep. And dare I say that Son being on the bench was probably a masterclass because he needed that. And what happened when he came on? He was possessed. So for me, we might not be doing everything the way, we're not playing the way that Spurs fans want to watch. But I can imagine if you asked Antonio Conte the same question, he would say, they're not playing the way that he wants to watch, but he's getting the results for us out of these players. He's just trying to find that synergy. And if you remember, he did say it'd take a full year. Well, he's not had that. So where are we now? We're on a massive improvement. We're in the Champions League after an electric end to the season last season. And we've had a phenomenal start to this season. So am I happy with Spurs' performances? No. Am I happy with Spurs? Yeah. Of course I am.
That's the erratic nature of being a Spurs fan. Am I happy with the performance? No. Yeah, no. It's Spurs in general. I will just reiterate a point. We are still waiting for Antonio Conte's post-match press conference to feed their way through to us here. At the moment, he's currently doing BBC and Sky interviews. Listen, Conte, busy man tonight. 6 goals to 2. He's going to be busy. Marcus, you'll know that feeling when you're waiting for the
Well, Ricky,
right?
I think Conte doesn't know what to say because, by the end, he's smiling. Of course, we're all smiling because Sonny... First thing, the one thing I didn't mention with the team selection, I think he had to drop Sonny tonight. It was the right thing to do. A, because he hasn't been performing by his own high standards. B, because Richarlison deserved the start. Richarlison didn't have a great 60 minutes or however long he played for. Sonny comes on, does what everybody wanted. Absolutely fantastic. Conte, I'm sure, is fuming about the way Spurs defended tonight. A quick précis of the game that you asked for. First 2 or 3 minutes, we were brilliant. Then 3 errors in 20 seconds from... Sanchez, unfortunately, we go a goal behind. Then Kulusevski, wonderful one. The way he cuts in from the left, that cross, unbelievable. Kane times his run perfectly, 1-1. Eric Dyer, we said he's brilliant. He's scoring goals again, thank goodness, because I saw the stat. This is his best goal return for about 60 years. Now, that's an exaggeration, but he scored 2, which is an indication of how he has not been scoring for several years. The guy can do no wrong for me at the moment. But Leicester always looked like equalising in the first half. They did. Bentancur, moment of magic. What a wonderful player he is, by the way. 3-2. Then Sonny comes on and does the rest. So it's a wonderful rollercoaster affair. But I bet Conte maybe has delayed his interviews tonight because he's trying to work out what he has seen. And I bet he's furious because he doesn't want 6-2 wins, does he? Well, with all due respect, he won a 1-0 win, won't he? Really? But we've still got to sort out this defensive frailty, because otherwise, as both the boys have said, when we do play, we are competing. By the way, I genuinely think, this is crazy, I know, I genuinely think we can win the league this season, which means we are competing with Manchester City, we are competing with Liverpool, we are competing in the Champions League with PSG. And I don't think Ben Davies is that bad a player, and I think all those sides have equally suspect defenders. So let's be positive, but Conte is a perfectionist and will want to sort out some of those defensive deficiencies.
I just thought TJ was going to get another bottle of wine there. I just want to get another bottle. And can I just again repeat this point that Marcus said at the early stages? This man, Marcus Buckland, right? He came on last season after a 0-0 to Brentford, right? When nobody gave Tottenham any hope at all of a top 4 finish. Marcus sat here and gave us a 4-minute calculation. It's probably quicker than that. I'm actually downplaying the man. He gave us a really good calculation in the space of a couple of minutes as to why Spurs would make the top 4, and they wouldn't have done it. So go and put your money on Marcus Buckland's words. Marcus, don't come back if it doesn't work. But Dean Looney gives us an update and says, Dean says, I cut off Conte's Radio 5 interview to listen to you lot. I can catch on Match of the Day later. Dean, thank you so much. And thank you, over 1,000 of you watching us live here as we try and dissect the game that we've barely even started yet. So opening goal, let's say, Tillsman's putting Leicester in front eventually after a VAR check to have the goal retaken. TJ, Spurs, as Marcus said there, an instant reply, a real instant reply. Superb ball from Kulusevski. Now it's becoming almost Kulusevski's own, I'd say, rhythm.
Dude, I mean, he's what a player. And just while Sam was talking as well about Kulu, I just because I knew he was young, and I just couldn't remember how young was he, because I remember talking about him last season. I've got 3 of my very close friends over here, 3 brothers. None of them support Tottenham. Well, Dean says he sort of does, but one of them's Chelsea, the other one's Arsenal, and one of them, I guess, is sort of Tottenham. And we're talking football all the time. And when we signed Kulu, one of the boys on that said, "Oh, he's a baller, this kid," because they'd watched him in Italy. And I was like, he's 21. I mean, as a man-child, right? He's a lump. And he's just such a cultured player. He's so aggressive. He's got that, that way that I'm a huge Dembele fan, as we know, how Dembele just used to go past players. And you knew what he was going to do. He would go right onto left and just goes past you. Kulu's ability to run to the byline and beat his defender at the byline and not carry the ball out is just unbelievable on his weaker foot, on his right foot. And then he'll switch it onto his left and either just hammer in a goal himself or put it on a freaking dime like he did for Harry Kane from that corner. Watch me put this on a dime. Yeah. My grandmother could have scored that, and she's been dead since 2003. Just
but
put her in
also
the right spot.
Kane deserves credit. He timed that run to absolute perfection. He knew what he was doing, which was brilliant from Harry Kane as well.
He's got great discipline in the penalty area, which comes with all that experience, and just making sure that he is, of course, ahead of the last defender. And also just knowing, I bet Kulu will put it there. Can you imagine how many times he does that in training under no pressure?
Well, exactly. Like you said, TJ, it's almost becoming now, as we've said, almost his own signature move, right?
Yes.
I mean, it's
like those quarterbacks, I'm not an American football person, although I live in America, but, those quarterbacks that can throw it through, they put a tire on like a moving target and they'll throw it and it just passes straight through the tire without even touching it. Kulu has got that level of ability. Mate, he's 22.
Yeah,
he's 22 years old. He turned 22 in April, and he's such a cultured pro. And again, to talk about Bentancur as well quickly. Yes, your doppelganger, as discovered by yours truly.
TJ, I must say, TJ called it for anybody else, and I've done it ever since.
Separated it, but we're still checking on the paperwork there, by the way.
We are the DNA check to come.
Yeah, that's right. We're checking the paperwork, but. Incredible performance from him. And I was talking to my brother earlier on a chat, and he was saying he plays like he plays in his pajamas. He's so calm and just so silky on the ball. Yep. And it makes a massive difference to us. And I actually thought in the sporting game, our biggest issue there is that he wasn't firing. Now, again, like in that position where you're receiving the ball every time, you're part of every attack and every defense, you have to kind of be at 100% or we're in trouble. Like Højbjerg was off his game today and we were in trouble until 3 came into the midfield. And then all of a sudden, what a turnaround. We'll probably have a formation conversation later. But I don't know about you boys, like Marcus and Sam and Ricky and everybody listening. I felt, and again, chatting with JB about this, that as soon as we went to those 3 central, like as soon as we went to 5 in the midfield, they didn't get a look in. When we went 3-5-2, Leicester couldn't complete a pass, couldn't find a channel, couldn't do anything. And all of a sudden, we were breaking away all the time. Now, yes, this is the bottom team in the table. But again, we know there's no easy games in the Premier League. Look at Bournemouth. Haven't lost a game since Scott Parker left. Haven't lost a game, right? And so there's no easy games, no weak teams. And also Leicester have great players. And as soon as we went to that 5 in the midfield, we looked dominant. And it was interesting what Conte was saying, that Bissouma hasn't understood tactically what Conte expects of him yet. Again, it's very complex, and I don't think we can even begin to comprehend just how intricate the minutiae is of a coach like Conte. And then one more thing before I shut up for about 5 seconds is remember the players that Paratici has brought in and the players that he hasn't brought in. The players that Paratici didn't bring in were not of the standard that he or Conte expect. And I'll go out again on a limb and say, I believe that Paratici is the greatest signing that Tottenham have ever made because of the players and the manager that he's brought in.
It's a great point. I mean, listen, we all know Conte probably wouldn't be here if Paratici wasn't. And then again, the argument that when you think...
Not a chance.
I have to remind, again, a lot of viewers and listeners here, the fact that, you know, somehow Fabio Paratici persuaded Christian Romero to come to the club when Nuno Espirito Santo was Tottenham's manager. Now, if he can do that, I mean, the guy is just an absolute literal genius. Conscious there's so much to cover. Of course, for Harry Kane, that meant for him was his 20th goal against Leicester. Just an incredible statistician of Harry Kane against Leicester. Just seems to absolutely love scoring against them. Leicester probably sick of him. And then coming out of you, Sammy, Spurs turning the game on its head to go 2-1 up. And it's another assist for Ivan Perisic this season. Eric Dyer rising highest to meet his corner to flick in that looping header. Now, listen, Conte actually recently urged, of course, Eric Dyer, who's now back in the England squad, that he needs to score more goals. He now has got 2 already this season. And as you said, Sam, I think earlier, really improving under Antonio Conte, isn't he?
Yeah, massively. Just before I start, I've got to say everything that Marcus and TJ saying there. I don't know why you need me on. What an amazing breakdown of analysis. Just sat here nodding my head.
What I love about you, Sam, is you blend into the audience when Marcus and TJ. There's 1,001 watching us live when Sammy blends into the audience and comes back.
Yeah, I'm just there nodding. I wish I did blend into the audience looking at TJ. He's far too handsome to be on the same screen as me. When he walked off, I was like, yes, result. And I need to get some better lighting on here. But yeah, no, you're completely right.
Only took me 3 hours to set this up. Sammy, only 3 hours.
We'll take you back through makeup, Sam. Give us half hour.
It's far more glamorous in America, man. I'm in my son's bedroom, sat on his Tottenham Hotspur bedding, White Hart Lane here, cushions everywhere, scarves, the lot, Tottenham rug, the lot. But Eric Dyer, let's go with him. So there's something about Eric Dyer that is special, and we've all been on the roller coaster of supporting him, haven't we? What really got me is when Mourinho. You saw that attachment that Mourinho had with him. And in fact, I think there was even a comment that was released that Mourinho said, wherever I go, I'll try and take him with me. I think is correct. And I was thinking, flip him to take him, at the time. And then he comes back and he has these incredible performances. Yeah. And you're like, who on earth would you replace him with? Who's out there? I just don't know. He's so good. And even you saw his ball down the right wing today towards Kulusevski and the forward thinking and an amazing slide tackle. And then he gets a goal. And it was beautiful, wasn't it? He guided it with his head. He didn't header it, did he? He touched it. He glanced it. It was beautiful. And you just love it when that he's still enjoying his football. You know, I thought actually, to be fair, Ricky, that Dele Alli's dipping form, Dyer would have gone alongside him. They were like 2 peas in a pod, those two. And he didn't. He's risen to the occasion. He stayed strong, and he just seems to get better. So the managers see something in Eric Dyer a lot more, I think, than the fans do. And they're the people that are in charge, like TJ was saying. I was just thinking, what brilliant.
I'd say across the board as well there, Sam, to your point. I think all of the managers that we've had really see something very special.
All of them. That's what I'm saying.
Back to Pochettino, right? I mean, even under Nuno, he was a regular feature. I mean, again.
They just see it, don't they? Yeah. And you see all the comments from the fans saying, what's he paying him? What's he got on his wife? Or what? All these comments of why is he getting a start? And then he pulls out those performances to show that that you know he's there for a reason. So yeah, spot on. Appreciate.
And talk about replacing him as well, Sam. You know, I know we've already talked a little about Sanchez, and I'm sure we'll get back to him. You know, wasn't Sanchez our third most expensive signing?
He was. Yeah, he was.
Wasn't he 60 million?
60 million. I think it was a 40, like maybe 45.
You know, with all the add-ons and everything from Ajax,
yeah, possibly.
Right?
Yeah,
60 million. I mean,
yeah.
So who do you replace him with, and how much would he cost you? Sorry to interrupt.
I mean, Eric Dyer.
On the money.
Yeah, totally agree. Right, again, we're gonna have to revert back to script. There's so many goals to cover. I'm trying to think that we haven't missed any goals out. So 2-1 at this stage. Spurs going ahead. Eric Dyer. I must say, Perisic now. It's getting to that point where if Perisic gets a corner, it's almost like a penalty for him. You know, he's going to deliver and provide an assist, and full credit to him. And I must just say as well on this, huge credit to Richarlison for winning that corner in the first place, because the ball actually looked like a lost cause at one point, but some real persistent work there. And again, smart work from Spurs, knowing how vulnerable Leicester are from set pieces, to the point where Leicester have now conceded an amazing 25 goals since the start of last season from set pieces, and actually almost made it 26 as another corner went in off Ndidi, but it was ruled out for a foul for Sanchez on the goalkeeper, which, to be fair, I mean, Marcus, coming over to you at that point, I thought, is it me or goalkeepers coming a bit more protected now? Because it just feels like you can't breathe on them these days without a foul being given.
Well, I think, to be fair, Ricky, that's been the case for such a long time, hasn't it? I mean, I thought it was a terrific goal, but as soon as anyone goes near to a goalkeeper and breathes on him, you know what's going to happen. So that was no great surprise. But it's a great stat that you've mentioned, that Leicester have conceded 25 from corners since the start of last season. The one thing that's always done my head in as a Spurs fan the last few years, and Christian Eriksen, good luck to him, all the rest of it. We always know it. Whenever he took a corner, it would always be cleared by the first defender. We used to be terrible from corners, and now we're lethal. So I get excited, even if it's a short corner.
As well, to throw that, stop that GLC.
No, we were the world's worst corner takers, but it's changed. When we get a corner now, it means something. So well done, Richarlison, for winning us that particular corner. And now we are potent. And as you said, Perisic, my goodness me, when you have somebody with quality who can cross a ball time after time, it's one of the great skills in football. And we go back through all the Spurs players, I think of Rolf Fox in particular all those years ago, the pace, but it doesn't matter. You can beat 5 players, you know the cross is not coming in. With Perisic, you're going to get a quality cross. It's magnificent. It's one of the best things you can see, I think, as a football fan, when you know the guy is going to deliver a quality cross. And so, yeah, that was absolutely fantastic.
I also love the terror on the faces of defenders when they know somebody's on the ball who can whip in a cross.
Yeah.
And again, to any point in that penalty box, you can see they just don't know where or even how to position themselves.
You can play
edge of the box. Do I close him down? And also Perisic will beat you. If you try to close him down, he'll beat you and then put in that useful.
It's the same with corners, isn't it? Like
Marcus, we want to see that style, don't we? That whipping those crosses, it's quality. I love it.
Yeah, like Marcus was saying, exactly the same with corners as well. You see how squads are setting up against us with corners now. They don't know where to go. They don't know where Harry Kane's slipping off to. They don't know where they're going to deliver the ball to. That short corner from Kulu as well, before, just to set it up. They don't know what we're going to do.
Who's the guy that we brought in? What's his name? The Italian guy?
Gianni Vaio. Now, we must say, we were singing today, I love Eric Dyer. Eric Dyer loves me. We've got to start singing, I love Gianni Vaio.
Yeah.
Gianni Vaio loves me, because I must say, can I just say, before we discuss the nature of Spurs defending set pieces, I have to again reiterate this point that Gianni Vaio is not a defensive set piece coach. So for the goal Spurs concede, don't blame Gianni, right? That's not Gianni's job. Gianni is just here to provide the intellect in terms of Spurs attacking set pieces. And blimey, I mean, at the moment, Marcus, he's doing a really good job, isn't he?
No, he is. He is absolutely right. And we are potent, which is something we have not been for a long time. And, we will, I'm sure, try to formalize what you guys have both said about when we switched to 3-5-2. We did look even more formidable. We know that Conte, that's not his natural DNA, so I don't suppose he's going to go to that on a regular basis. But it's a fantastic option to have, and let's have a good plan B. Because the only other thing that's nagging me, and I know I said a few minutes ago we're going to win the league and all the rest of it, and I still think we can, but I do look at the fixtures that we've played so far. Okay, we got a lucky point at Chelsea, didn't we? We have not yet been fully tested. So I do want to hold that back a little bit. We've beaten Leicester. who have got good
Bottom of the
individuals,
league,
but
of
are
course.
bottom of the league with 1 point. And the other time we scored a hat for the goals was against Southampton, who are a pretty basic side. And the one thing about Kulusevski, and I love him, but the way he can cut in and all the rest of it, I want to see if that will work in the second half of the season against quality defenders. So there are a lot of questions to be answered, but we do have a potency. We've got a fantastic squad. We're playing at 60% and we're top of the league, or joint top of the league. So eureka. And there were a couple of dodgy team selections today, so we can only get better.
You know, Marcus is a proper broadcaster. When he's gone earlier, said Spurs can win the league, and then suddenly 15 minutes later, just a reminder, we've not really been tested yet. Just keep ourselves sane here, please. Keep ourselves sane.
Yes.
Just some chats we've got to read out here. Also more says Conte masterclass going from 3-4-3 to 3-4-2-1 to 3-4-1-2 to 3-5-2. Masterclass is superb. And also again, we have another opinion here, questioning which you are going to cover. Kainan Taki says, do we think the 3-5-2 will stick? Might lack offensive options if our wing-backs aren't attacking as much. Kulu can be that wing-back in this formation. It's a good point, because I think, we have seen Conte a couple of times put Kulusevski as a wing-back, and he has said on numerous occasions that might be an opportunity where we might see that throughout the season. I know Sammy's shaking his head. Listen, Conte has shown today he will put a surprise in. We've seen 4 changes. It's unlike Conte. A lot of his lineup since he's been here, at most really 1 or 2. We've not ever, I don't think, seen 4 changes since he's come in. Mm-hmm. So I find that very interesting. So again, one to keep an eye on. Lots of love for Gianni Vale now in the comments. What have I started off as a Gianni Vale fan club now coming? So Gianni, listen, we won't take credit too much for that. Like I say, I hope that keeps on going. But Leicester pegging us back. It was 2-2. James Maddison. It was a really good finish from Maddison, but it does all start from the fact there's, do you know what, Marcus, we'll start with you on this because you mentioned it earlier. The way Sessegnon was really out-muscled in a situation where he simply shouldn't have been. And Spurs concede at a point where really, again, I think possession-wise, we weren't really dominant at this point in the game. And you just felt with Spurs, I think you said earlier, we wasn't really in total control until the introduction, of course, of Heung-min Son we're going to come on to.
No, and James Maddison's interesting because I am a big fan of Maddison, and I thought during the summer, is he the sort of creative hub that we could really do with? I don't think Conte rates him. In terms of the finish as well, it looks great. Did he not shin it? I mean, are we going to give him credit?
Already, Rob C in the comments, lots of it will say it was a shin rather than a listen. It looked good. It looked good from distance. What I would say, but again, probably close up. You're probably right, Marcus. You are right. It is a good player. Good player.
But the point there, Ricky, you're right. Sessegnon was found out, and at that stage, I do think at halftime a draw was probably. Obviously, we know that possession's not the most important thing. Conte doesn't look at those stats, but they were playing pretty well, and I thought 2-2 was a fair reflection of the first half. But the fact being, we kicked on straight away at the start of the second half, and that's a good sign. That's a good sign because we are. As we're all saying, we're not necessarily as convincing as we should be at the moment, but we're finding a way. And that, as TJ said, is a key to a team that's going to win silverware.
Coming over back to you, Sam, that first half felt like a real frantic affair that was lacking any real quality. We had 2 sides there that I think, if we're being honest with you, you wouldn't know who was towards the top or towards the bottom of the league. I think that was the aspect of concern really from that first half. And I think what was overridden really was just the nature of both teams, how poor they were defensively. Going into the break, Sam, was you really concerned by that first half display, despite the fact Spurs have scored 2, and there has been that concern about the element of way Spurs have been, let's say, on the eye playing their football?
Yeah, it was too scatty, wasn't it? It was all over the place. It was like being at my house at Christmas when the cheese board comes out. It was just a hell for leather, and it was each for their own, wasn't it? But what I like to see is that everybody was chasing the ball down, but it was all over the place. It was relatively nervous at half time. I don't know though. But when we're playing like that, I always feel like we're going to get something from the game. It's when Conte started us, didn't he, with second half performances. When Antonio Conte came in, it was his second half that really gave us the light, wasn't it? We were slow in the first half, and we all used to say, "What is he injecting into them at half time?" I want some of that. I want some of that Conte passion bottled up. We need, and everyone, you say, if Tottenham just started like they did in the second half, they do with Conte, then we've got a right good chance, and they did. So, and that's all I want to see from my club as a fan. And as I would do as a manager as well. You need to see everybody giving everything. But we were unstructured. The loose passes were, yes. I'm trying to find a polite word for it, seeming as this goes out to so many people now, Ricky. But it was that they weren't good enough, and they.
I love that, Sam. That was a real.
Yeah, I'm trying to. You notice I've toned it down from a few years.
That was polite. That was polite.
I said it at the start of the show. We're going to get punished by clubs with some of these loose passes. And let's be honest, Perisic made a couple. Even Bentancur made one. We need to tighten up with the passing, especially when you're passing back and we've put so many bodies forward. It's interesting that Tottenham have cover the most ground off the ball of any team in the Premier League, which is really interesting.
It's a great stuff. I mean, again, it just shows the fact that, Sam, obviously Spurs playing for Conte, you can't the players are running for him, exactly what you'd want from any team for the manager, right?
Yeah.
They're running for him, but it also shows that what we also do is try and stay back and we wait for that devastation
opportunities,
on the opportunities on the break, which is why we've got every chance against clubs like Liverpool, Manchester City, Paris Saint-Germain, and the likes of. I share Marcus's passion with. I've never felt before like we're going to win something. I just haven't. If you can't believe now, you can't believe
this team's winning something. This team is winning something. Definitely,
yeah, I agree with you, mate. And it's just bringing that. It's funny because I've seen a lot of comments about Conte might have preferred just to win 1-0 and keep it going. I don't think so. I don't think so. I think we needed every single bit of that game to happen today. We needed the mistakes like you do because you learn from them. Absolutely. We needed Hugo being tested because he's an absolute, like TJ was saying, he's irreplaceable. Who replaces Hugo Lloris? Nobody.
It's a big job at the moment. Yeah.
There's nobody. They can't lace his boots. He's mustard. And he proved it with saving that pen. Granted, it was, deemed as illegal in the game, but he's really good. His kicking was great today, which is very rare you'll hear me saying. But his kicking was super. He was setting up some balls for Kulu. His left foot was really good. And it's just it's one of those, Ricky. Every single thing that happened in the game, have got us better. Sonny needed that to happen, didn't he? He's come on and proven his worth. So I didn't want to win 1-0 with a Harry Kane header. No, I didn't. And I'm really glad that we had the game that we did.
Yeah, I mean, finally to you, TJ, just to sum up that first half, how you were feeling going into half-time. I know you put on last one, I suppose you're going to need a lay down before you come and do this pod, because at half-time it was exhilarating. It was 2-2, but it felt like we'd gone through the ringer. And who knew that 4 more goals were to come in that second half, all the Spurs' way, given the way that first half had gone. But, I mean, overall, TJ, thoughts going into half-time and the way Spurs had played in that first half?
Well, just to echo what Sam was saying, listening to Marcus and to you, Ricky, and to Sammy, and even all the comments coming in, we know our club, don't we? And it's fascinating to listen to. The quality was very poor. You know what it reminded me of? It reminded me of a relegation battle, like 2 teams at the bottom of the table. You
would not know, would you? Really, the difference between the two in that first half, being kind. Not. Honestly, you wouldn't. Yeah.
That's the team at the top and the team at the bottom, and it just didn't look like that at all. The thing is I think as well as that there are certain positions in the upper echelons of the Premier League and probably the best leagues in the world. We just don't have time. You just don't. Like I think that is amplified in the Premier League just because of the pace of it and the physicality. Again, a lot of the other leagues in Europe, I know people are really into them and what have you. But whenever I watch it, if somebody farts in the 6th row, the referee gives somebody a yellow card and everybody falls over. And so Højbjerg was off today because you don't have time for a touch, mate. Not in the middle of the pitch. You just don't. If that ball comes to you, have to be able to play that round the corner pass. And again, Bentancur is so good at that. I mean, listen, Harry Kane is so good at that. Do you know what I mean? Like just back to and you know that a player is pressing you, man. And again, it's the Prem, so he's going to give you a wallop, and just to be able to play that ball round the corner almost without looking, because that a wing back is going to be closing down the guy that it's going to. Sorry, mate, say that again.
Kane knows that pass. He knows when it's coming to him
and can do it
where it's going.
And it can go back at any angle as well. It can go sideways or that way or that. And having that pass, I would say, is the most important pass that you have to have in the Premier League. More than that, splitting the channel, more than that 60-yard Alderweireld pass, onto Dele Alli, like which Dyer is kind of developing, which is lovely. But having that round the corner, 10, 15-yard, first time perfect pass, I would say is the most important pass that you have to have in the Premier League. And that's what was missing from Bentancur's game in the Sporting game. And it really, really hurts you. There were just too many times. Sessegnon, take a touch, pause, lose. Højbjerg, take a touch, lose. Richarlison, even take a touch, lose. Like Johnny Evans, after about 10 or 15 minutes, was like, you know what? I think I can beat Richarlison to every single ball that comes into his feet. Every single time. And he just couldn't turn. Now, I do love the... I'm delighted that we have Richarlison, and we all love him for his skullduggery and Master of the Dark Arts and all that kind of thing. People used to love Lamela for that kind of thing. And, in my previous appearances on this podcast, I would say, that Lamela I always thought was a liability. I did love his, his dedication and his passion, but your decision making. Who scores a Rabona and then gets a red card? Okay, that's you, mate. That's your career personified in a moment. But for me, Richarlison has that aggression, but also his football IQ for such a young man is really, really high. We've already talked about him winning that corner, which led to Perisic, which led to Eric Dyer. His decision making is excellent. And again, I will talk more about Sanchez. That for me is something that he has never addressed in his game. Where is your decision making, mate? Where is your decision making? Why are you still going to ground with a player who's approaching why are you still doing that? You're a £60 million centre back from Ajax, probably the best trained. Ajax have produced, if I could pick any team to be a feeder club, Ajax all day long. Look at the players that they have consistently produced. Why are you still doing that? Why haven't you improved? Why has Ben Davies gone from gentle bareness? What was it that Leo always says? Is he a 6.5?
6 out of 10, 6 out of 10, 6.5.
Right?
Yeah.
And now he's gone to like an 8.5. Why can't you do that, big man? Look at you, man. You're like the perfect specimen for an athlete. You're perfect. You're tall and strong and you're fast and you have flexibility. Like the guy falls at funny angles because he's always throwing himself to the ground and gets up and he's full of the joys of spring. You should be such a weapon for us and you're just not. And it's not to do with athletics.
Do you know what's in? That's such a good point you've made there. But I'm fascinated by Sanchez and the goals we concede, the numbers, which are, if we look at them, are very, very good. Actually, I think he's immensely talented, and for 80 minutes of a 90-minute game, he gets a high mark. But whether he's also following instructions and is a little bit sort of insecure about what he should be doing, I kind of sense that might be part of the problem. And I feel for him in a way because he has the potential to be brilliant.
I know. Nervous, I mean, like that energy, of course, there. And listen, to Sammy's point, Conte teams tend to be a second half team. And again, I think a lot of that is fitness. We're so fit. And the fact that we do run more off the ball than any other team. And I think actually that's something that has to improve with Romero. He's not untouchable. Like we're all huge Romero fans. What a class defender. He's aggressive. Talking about not letting an attacking player turn. He loves going through the back of a player and he can just time it perfectly. That double tackle that he instigated last season, to set us up for a goal which probably got us into fourth spot. But there's just his fitness is just not quite there. Like that, he looked very leggy against Sporting, and the goals that we conceded, obviously we conceded, 2 in the last couple of minutes. He just wasn't there. So, but Sanchez doesn't have those issues, but his mentality just isn't there, and decision making is massive at that level.
That's confidence, I think.
I do totally agree. Yeah, most certainly. What we will just do is we are going to go for our next break of the show for our listeners that are on audio. For our watching us on YouTube, listen, we've got over 1,000 of you plus watching us live on a Saturday evening, where of course we've just seen Spurs have hit 6 past Leicester. We're joined by the wonderful Sammy Powell, British actor and writer TJ Ramini, kept us entertained as always, and the wonderful Marcus Buckland. If you missed the early stages, now you wouldn't have missed this if you're listening on audio, of course. Marcus predicted very early on Spurs can and will win the league, and then 15 minutes later, I did just try and calm us down and retract that point by saying, look, we've got through some of the... We've got through some, like I say, fixtures at the moment that are winnable. Let's see what's to come in terms of the next 7 or 8. But
No,
just
but the words can. I didn't say will.
Yeah.
Can. And I think we can.
And I was like, broadcaster there, putting me in my place. Can, not will, being very clear. Just a reminder, of course, to our last Word on Spurs audience, if you need reminding that we're absolutely sponsored. Well, we are sponsored. We are delighted to be sponsored by them. We're, of course, delighted to be sponsored by NordVPN. Now, Nord, as we've said throughout this season, they're for us a secure, fast, and very easy to use VPN. We've called them the hurricane of VPNs there. I've got the device protection of Christian Romero. Now, I've been saying this throughout last Word on Spurs, and I had to joke against Sporting that we wasn't too sure which European competition that we're in. Now, as things sit for Spurs, we are still in a position where Spurs can quite comfortably qualify for the next round of the Champions League. So you're going to need Nord, hopefully, fingers crossed, where you're trawling around Europe, going through some lovely places, whether it be Real Madrid, Borussia Dortmund, PSG, as Sam mentioned earlier. You're going to need them a call so you can, number one, secure your device, and number two, still catch all the football, YouTube, Spotify, you name it, you want to catch. So we're delighted on Last One Spurs to be offering our listeners and viewers a discount, and you can go to NordVPN, that's www.nordvpn.com/LWOS. You can get yourselves a 30-day back money guarantee and Nord VPN plan, which is 4 months for free. Right. Guys, we're going to get into a crazy, crazy second half if we possibly can, because who knows where we start. It really was the Heung-min Son show. But it did start with a bit of Ricky Bentancur, I've got to say, because he put us ahead very, very early on to that second half. So Sam will come over to you. He won the ball back all himself. Indeed, he really given away a present, like you said earlier, Sam, like it was Christmas, putting us in front, and his first goal for the club, and he absolutely loved it. Well, I did.
Yes, so did I, Ricky. Obviously, did think of you straight away as well.
I just came back to it. Don't worry, you're all good.
It's impregnated my head that I just can't get rid of it. But yeah, I mean, I'm a huge fan of Bentancur. I love players that go about the business, and just he's so key to Tottenham at the moment. I mean, dare I say irreplaceable? We keep talking about players that could be replaced. He is pulling all the strings. Little passes from the back that you watch from him that. They're just so calm and collected. He's brilliant. And he's come up, he's done a pickpocket and fully deserves that as well, because, as I said before, I call him the silent assassin. He's like a ninja because you just don't know what he's doing, but he's making it happen. He's deadly. And honestly, for a sec, I didn't think he was going to miss. I didn't think he was going to go for a screamer. I didn't think he was going to go for a chip. He didn't have the option to pass.
Take it so well, though. I mean, for a guy, King Hoddle says here in the comments, King Hoddle here, big fan of the show, King Hoddle, lots of love as always. Only 4 goals in 272 club games, and put it away like he was a natural, Sam.
That's because he's too busy holding the club up on his shoulders. He's absolutely awesome at what he does. He's
and running away with other players' watches and wallets, just constantly.
Absolutely.
Yeah, he's that good. He's that good.
Boys, in the same way that Conte has told Eric Dyer to score more goals, that's a ridiculously poor statistic for such a fine player.
Yeah,
so that's got to
I think,
improve.
Marcus, that'll change, don't you? Because
yes,
I think every single player at Tottenham has been told they can score. And I think instead of, historically at Tottenham where players have been put in the positions, Antonio Conte's incredibly intricate at making sure players are in the right position. But one thing he hasn't done is restricted the scoring ability. We've seen the defenders coming up. We've seen players believing that they can score. Everybody getting forward, and that's why he's improved the fitness as well, in my opinion, Marcus. I'm sure you might agree. Yeah. I think he's made it so that they can all get forward, but they can all get back. And you've got to be fit for that. There was only TJ touched on it. Kyle Walker. You knew if he went all the way from back right to the front, put an unbelievable cross. And it normally was a great cross. It normally was. And we do miss his quality. But he's obviously having a superb career at Manchester City. But we knew he'd get back. Now, what Conte wants is 9 out of our 11 to get back fast. And I think with the fitness training that they're doing, that can happen. So you're probably going to see a lot more goals from Bentancur, I think. It's difficult when he's such a playmaker. But if you think you've got 2 incredible passes of the ball, and I'm going to talk about Harry Kane in that instance, because he's the best passer of the ball on the field for Tottenham. We've now got Bentancur who plays those cool, calm, collected passes. But he knows, like TJ was saying, and I echo it. It's so. He said, I think you said, TJ, it's probably the most important thing to have in the Premier League. I think you're right. And that making that, knowing where your pass is going before you've received it is half of nowadays in such a fast-paced game that the Premier League delivers to you. That's what you need to do. And I know that they do futsal in La Liga and stuff like that to try and improve it. We need to, let's not go too deep into it, but you don't see a lot of it apart from teams like City that make the big impact. Bentancur was never going to miss that, Ricky. I was jumping out of my seat. It was brilliant because he's just like his passes. It was pinpoint accurate. It's beautiful. He was running, even though it was heading towards the post, he was running for the celebration because he knew himself, because he knows exactly himself where his passes or his shots are going.
I must say, I mean, just on Bentancur, I'd love to dedicate more time to it, but if we are, the show will end up being 4 hours, and we're just conscious that it is Saturday evening. So, I mean, listen, there's plenty, I would say, maybe sloppy moments in the first half from him, but listen, second period, I think he worked ever so hard, got his goal, and really kicked on from there. Marcus, coming over to you, it was Lloris to the rescue for Spurs to keep out Daka's header that was creeping in. I mean, Lloris today was really, really on top form for Spurs. He saved Tillman's penalty early on, of course. Couldn't really do much with Maddison's looping shot, but as we said, there was that flying save to deny Daka, and then a couple more late on. A really, really good performance from Lloris. Then came the moment where we saw some substitutions. So Emerson Royale replacing Ivan Perisic, Son and Romero, then replaced by Richarlison. Son and Romero on to replace Richarlison and Sanchez. And it was actually great to see Son yet to score, of course, before this game. Longest drought since 2018, would you believe it? But that clearly didn't dim his popularity because he was given a standing ovation from the Spurs fans upon entering the field. And then Spurs went to a change in formation, a 3-5-2, and that did really make a lot of the difference. We had Basuma in there to really shore up things. We had Højbjerg, who really in the second half really grew into the game. Bentancur, as you mentioned, becoming a lot more influential. And I think, if I'm being honest with you, I can't really remember, Marcus, Spurs conceding an opportunity after we went to 3-5-2, because obviously Son causing the damage, but the formation change clearly was a tactical masterclass from Conte. Would you agree?
Yeah, I think they had one half chance right towards the end of the game, but that was neither here nor there. On the subject of Hugo Lloris, I think he's playing as well as I've ever seen him play, which is fantastic because his future was in doubt not so long ago. He looks sharp, motivated. He's a leader. I love him. I'd agree that he's absolutely undroppable at the moment. I'm fascinated. We made a big thing about the formations, and one of our correspondents was talking about, you could be even more into the minutiae of exactly how he changed things around, but effectively from a 3-4-3 to a 5-3-2. And that's great because we've got those options, and let's see where we go with those. And the Son story is magnificent. It was exactly, as I said at the start of the show, I think, or we all did, it was what was required. He needed to be left out, just, because he's not had the greatest of starts to the season. Richarlison deserved to be given the 90 minutes, but he's come on and done that, which I think is so invaluable, not just to him, but for the team in general. It could not have been better in that regard. And the goals were pretty special as well, weren't they?
17 minutes.
It was never offside. The last one was never off. I love that moment because I was in a bar in Leeds, and these I don't know who they supported. One of them.
Say what you want to say, Marcus.
Yeah, well, they're giving me the I'm saying, mate, that's onside. I've seen it, and it was, and so it was a double celebration. So, yeah, up there, frankly.
Love it. JK says, Ricky, don't gloss over Bentancur. He scored the game winner and the first for the start. JK, listen, thank you so much for that. JK, if we do Bentancur as an hour, these guys, we're going to be here till midnight. So we've got to do a Son hat-trick to even try and cover. My God. Right, well, let's start on some Son love. Before we do, Conte has now come out to the press, so we're going to bring you an update on what he said about that formation change. He said, when I decided to bring Basuma in and play with the three midfielders and move Sonny nearer to Kane, it was to exploit those spaces because it was really good, and you could see it gave us more balance, and we exploited that with the ability of Kane and Son. So deliberate change from Conte, of course, and one that really, really did pay off. TJ, coming over to you, it just had to be Heung-min Son, didn't it? I mean, it was just his afternoon. Definitely, like I say, I think just to put the stats out there with Son, there's some absolutely crazy ones. Son is the first ever Tottenham player to score a Premier League hat-trick as a sub. And as Sammy said earlier, just to repeat it because we love it, it only took Sonny just 13 minutes and 21 seconds to equal Gabriel Jesus' goal total for the Premier League games this season. Now, I must again state the fact, this is recording on Saturday, not Sunday, just to make that very, very clear. So cautious of that, we have to be. But Sammy, that first goal for Son, he ran off up the pitch onto Bentancur's pass, and it was just a simply glorious shot, top bin's right corner. And the cheer around the Spurs Stadium at that moment, it was just sensational, wasn't it? Sensational, if I must add.
It was, mate. It was. You've got to give this to TJ. He's his biggest fan.
Yeah, TJ. We'll come to TJ first. Sammy, you'll take the next goal. Go on, TJ. Tell us, before you wipe away the tears again with Sonny, how much
they are brewing. They are brewing. Thank you, Sammy, for the assist. Form is temporary, class is permanent. You know, if there was ever a moment that encapsulates that sentiment, it was that. You know, we adore him. And listen, he's a much-loved footballer from supporters of other clubs, just a decent person, a lovely man and a prolific talent. And, you know, so often passed over. I mean, not nominated. You win the Golden Boot with no penalties. You're not even nominated. You're not in the team of the season. You know, it's just staggering.
Well, it's mind-boggling.
It is. And, you know, people say, oh, it's because he's Asian. And, you know, I mean, if it is for that reason, then that's just diabolical, you know, on so many levels. I don't know if it's that. I don't know. Is it because he's a Tottenham player? I don't know. I don't even want to get into that. But what an absolutely astounding performance. And, I mean, like Marcus said, you know, 2 of those goals, who scores those? You know, Zlatan, who scores those goals?
The worldies,
I just
left and the
love
right
that
foot,
you
2
come off
worldies.
the bench, you've been on the pitch, you know, you've been on the pitch for about 10 minutes, and you know, even with everything that's going on in your mind, the enormity of the pressure that's heaped upon these young men's shoulders. And remember, they're young men, they're kids, really. Just to think, you know what? I think I'll take this on and see if I can pop this in the top corner from 25 yards out.
Despite not scoring
that
all
honestly
season,
that's made me very emotional. Just that he still knows I still am that player. Let me just do this, wallop in, and then to cut in from the right onto your left and go, I think I could do this again, you know. Bosh, in. I mean, come on. What
But TJ, the good thing is, as you said, class is form is temporary, class is permanent. The thing is, none of us are surprised, are we? Not one of us is surprised.
I think you
that he
speak
did
to any
that.
Spurs fan. I mean, I've said it.
His confidence wasn't knocked, and he still wanted to take that on and executed it so beautifully.
Yeah, and I must say, Sam, coming to you, I mean, listen, you've been on Last One Spurs regularly this season. How many times have we sat here and said, look, we don't want to go too hard on Son because he's going to make it look like an idiot in the next game and go and score a hat-trick, right? And that's exactly what he's done today.
You can't go hard on somebody that talks with the feet like that. But not only that, it's so hard, the love that you have for a player when they're genuinely nice. You know what they're bringing out in the dressing room. You know what they're bringing to the club. It's just, he's a good person, isn't he? And that is, you almost want him to succeed. And I have to say, TJ used an advanced vocabulary to linguistically describe Son there, so etiquetely. I'm just going to say he's the dog's bollocks. He'll fit into every single team. He would fit into every team in the world. He's that good. And that you can't take that away from a player. The thing is with Heung-min Son is if you ask anybody, whoever they support, whether they would have him in their club, they are blinkered to say they wouldn't. He fits in. And just like TJ,
he even made that North-South nonsense that, you know, Bowley talked about, you know, the North-South All-Star game or whatever. Like, you know, he was in everyone's team. Sorry to interrupt.
Everybody. No, correct. And he's in an All-Star team anyway. Worldwide. That's what he is. He is one of the best players in the world. And you know, that drought, it was sad to see. But for him to take a shot on like that, I mean, you know, when you've missed, and he's missed a few sitters, to be honest, which is just luck and fate and way of the game and how it falls. And that's football, baby. But at the end of the day, he's taking it. He's taking it. He's to his right. He knew exactly where he was going to put it, where the goal was. And how delighted are you to see that? The emotions that you went through there was number one.
What I loved, Sam, is for that first goal, he just celebrated by standing still. I wasn't too sure if he had anything planned for it. It was just absolutely remarkable.
Do you know what? I'm really glad you said that, because that's something that I think everybody's picked up on. And I think it was almost his own silence to the whole situation without, screaming out. And if I'm being honest with you, I think every single Tottenham fan in the country did the celebrating for him. Because it was just absolutely, it was unbelievable, and
around the world, he's beloved around the world.
Look at that goal. That'll be Premier League goal of the month, by the way.
Yeah,
and
which one? Because the second one, Sam,
his first one, one will be Premier League goal of the month.
I must say, in between the first and the second goal, now of course we had I gotta say at this point a very good tackle from Basuma, really concentrating on the defensive aspect. We then saw Romero roll a shot wide, which was latterly then given offside, which I think Romero, to his blushes, was saved, because I think for Romero's case, if that was onside, I think he would have been absolutely gutted. But yeah, I mean, Sonny, as we come over to you, Marcus, he got his second of the game, welded with both feet. This time it was a left footer, inside left-hand side of the net, beyond the keeper's grasp. But then he celebrated with the old finger to his lips. And at that moment, I mean, Sonny's back, right? I mean, Sonny's back and the confidence is flooding forward, Marcus.
Yeah. The only person I was thinking about then was Richarlison, who got his first start, and he's on the bench. And he's a team man, I'm sure. He must have thinking, okay, I'm back on the bench again for the next the next couple of months or so. But I actually think that's fine. But if he doesn't mind, I think he's a fantastic player to come off the bench, and we're going to need him for a lot of other cup games and all the rest of it as well.
We've got 4 tournaments to play with 4.
Yeah,
exactly. And we can. I'm not saying we will. We can win them all, but
no pressure. The quadruples on.
No, but we can win one of those. And yeah, the point being, none of us were surprised. It was a matter of time. It's you go 6 or 7 games out of goal. All top strikers do that. It's great that he's come back like that. I just wish we had another game midweek and next weekend for him to build on that straight away.
The thing is, Marcus, sorry to interrupt there, Ricky. I just to get this off my chest is the mix of emotions that came from Spurs fans there. And I hope I'm talking on for a large majority of them. Was number one, it was an amazing goal. So everybody loves to see that. A goal scored like that. Number 2, it was a Tottenham goal. We were happy. He's come off the bench. Number 3, though, it was for him, wasn't it? Because it was for him. It was like when when that hat trick, when the VAR confirmed it, like you, Marcus, we knew, didn't we? We were like, yes, it's in, and it was almost like a second chance to celebrate. But that feeling of him getting that hat trick coming off there wasn't anybody else in football that deserved it more than that man, and those emotions watching a game like that is just why I'm so in love with. I think
you'd be hard pressed to find a football fan anywhere, no matter who they support, to begrudge that hat trick.
Correct.
Yeah. You want the good guys to succeed, don't you?
Absolutely.
And he clearly is one of the all-time good guys.
Yeah.
Such a nice guy, Marcus, that he obviously gave the rest of the Premier League a head start, right?
Not exactly. And he'll still catch them all up again.
He most certainly will. Like I say, that was, of course, the second goal. And like I say, worlded with both foot. And then, essentially, there was that argument, actually, is the second better than the first? But listen, I'll leave you up to the viewers and listeners, all of 1,000 of you plus watching us live, to decide on that. And then finally, Son puts the ball in his net for what we think was the hat-trick, as Marcus and Sammy have alluded to. And then there's that moment, isn't it? That horrible moment with VAR where you have to pause and you have to wait. And it's that dreaded wait where for Son, I thought he was quite calm. I think Son was quite confident. He was onside, to be honest with you. Checked by VAR, flag went up. No, he's onside. And then, I'd say that treble for the South Korean, just phenomenal. And to kind of recap it, 59th minute enters a sub, 73rd minute scores his first, 83rd minute scores his second, 87th minute scores, and it's 17 minutes of just absolute carnage. And as we said again, Heung-min Son there, 13 minutes, 21 seconds. Just, I don't know how to sum it up. Can anyone sum up Son? It's just, listen, the confidence he'll now be feeling, Marcus, going into that international break now and beyond, with Arsenal coming next. How important is that, Marcus, for what's to come now for Spurs?
No, it's absolutely. Well, it's massive, and the fact was, it was a plus that we were doing as well as we were as a team without Sonny scoring. Now he's come back and he's scoring. So how much more can we do? And let's also remember that he has by the narrowest of margins on so many occasions, been denied VAR goals, as has Harry Kane. So there's a little bit of justice in that. I seem to think it might be one against Leicester a season or two ago that was actually really crucial. But he's got the rub of the green. He's now firing all cylinders. You're right, Ricky. I think that is the most important plus tonight. We've just got a huge cog back working on all cylinders. So let's see what we can do as we play some of these harder fixtures between now and the mid-season break.
Oh, man, some lovely actually quotes coming out from the game from both Sonny and from Antonio Conte. To start with Son. Son said to Sky Sports earlier this evening, I'm getting emotional about the support from the Spurs fans. There has been amazing support. And I've always felt like I've disappointed my teammates, fans, and with my performances. They've always been supporting me. I mean, TJ, to make you well up even further, Conte's come out and said, for sure, to see Sonny with the hat-trick and the man of the match trophy was great and amazing for me and the teammates. We needed this, not only Sonny. And you can actually tell what it meant to Conte, the way Conte actually lost it when Sonny did score that hat-trick.
I mean, can you imagine what would have happened in the dressing room? You know, obviously, a couple of seasons ago, we were on All or Nothing, you know, the Amazon show. I mean, can you imagine the outpouring of genuine, unbridled, unstoppable, relentless emotion for this man, this phenomenal athlete, but just a sweet, kind, decent, honest, committed, loyal, dedicated servant. And a lot of, again, we talked about before, a lot of the players have not been at the club for very long. One more Bentancur. Remember, he's only been there since last January, and he's already slotted in. And
Decky as well. It's phenomenal when you say that.
Can you imagine? Can you imagine just the outpouring of love and relief for Sonny? I mean, what a moment, and what a moment for him. And of course, we're such a maligned club. Actually, a fact, the most maligned club in the Premier League. You know, Tottenham gets more abuse, criticism. Than any other club in the Premier League.
Yep.
And so to have that unity is terribly, terribly important. There's so much vitriol that's spewed on players and managers. And I don't know if you guys listened to that Moment of Truth BBC podcast about the managers at Rotherham and Oxford United. And it was really fascinating, again, to get a personal insight into how those comments and what people say to them on the street and also social media, like, really affects them very personally. So when, of course, it's the opposite, it's an outpouring of love and support. Just so happy for him as an individual. Like, yes, we've won this game, but for Sonny to have that moment is just huge. And I'm so happy for him to come away with the match ball. Yeah, I mean, it's a Hollywood. And even the VAR, it's Hollywood, isn't it? Oh my God, he's gone. Oh, hold on a second, there's a late call. You know, and you have to wait. You know, the close up on Sonny as the music is around. Like, oh, he's onside. And, you know, I mean, it's like a Rocky movie.
Mark,
you know?
I'll tell you what, TJ, you make it Hollywood. Make it Hollywood.
It was Hollywood. It was Hollywood. It was perfect.
It goes from Brentwood to Hollywood when TJ comes on the show. I tell you, it definitely does. Right, guys, we're looking to close the show. So just to give a couple of, listen, we've had these guys for an hour and a half on a Saturday. It's been absolutely superb. Absolutely loved it. Amazing win. As we look to close it, just a couple of players that haven't really caught the headlines we've discussed. But listen, Clement Longley, I have to say, nowhere to be really seen for Maddison's second goal tonight. And when Session needed to back up down that flank, didn't really happen. But apart from that, did improve in that second half. A real solid display from him. Perisic, as we mentioned earlier, listen, he grabbed that assist, put in the cross for Sanchez's header, which was tipped over. But he also had some iffy moments defensively. But again, on a performance like tonight, I think we want to focus on the positives. I think Sessegnon, Marcus and Sammy have taken their pieces away for him. So we'll leave him for the moment. Emir Højbjerg, definitely first half passing was a bit off note for him, but he improved as that game wore on, as he always seems to do, and actually ended up providing the assist for Son's third goal this evening. Bentancur, as we've discussed, first goal for the club. Really good performance from him. That gives JK some credit there. Listen, I brought Bentancur back up for you. Kulusevski back in the team. I read a crazy stat earlier on this chat now, just the amount of goal involvements that Kulusevski's had for Tottenham, just simply outrageous. And at the moment, again, how do you drop DJ and Kulusevski? Listen, he was sacrificed as Conte went to that 3-5-2, but people won't forget the impact he had on this game very early on. Harry Kane, of course, netting home the equaliser for Spurs. His record against Leicester now stretches to 20 goals in all competitions against Leicester since becoming a Spurs player. Just absolutely outrageous. Richarlison, Can't forget, battled away, won that corner for Tottenham that led to that second goal. Plenty of endeavour. Emerson Royale coming on, a good solid second half from him. Heung-min Son, the show belongs to him. Christian Romero actually came on, brought some late aggression to his game. Blushes were spared, of course, by that offside flag. But to close the show, we're going to close it on Antonio Conte's post-match comments. So we're going to read a few out here and we'll come round to, like I say, the guys to close the show. Right, Antonio Conte, let's see what he's been saying then. So coming over to you, Sammy, first. Conte said, at some points, I have to take important decisions. First, you have to be honest when you make the decisions. If you are honest, you don't lose the respect of your players. Every decision I'm going to take is for the best of my team and my players. Conte's words after, Sam, what do you make of those for you?
Well, he's always honest, isn't he? I like that. I love everything that he says, to be fair. We're learning so much from this coach because of the transparency that he's giving us, pre-match, post-match, whatever. We've always had a bit of a problem, haven't we, with manager comments, going down the whole media route of just staying diplomatic. We could have done better. I thought we had a good game, but we need to improve. I mean, it's almost scripted sometimes. Antonio Conte doesn't give that. He gives his heart, and that's what we want. So, yeah, absolutely. And do you know what? He's not cryptic like Mourinho cryptic, but he's cryptic in the fact that he's saying something to make an impact on the individuals, and that's what you want. He's not calling them out. I wouldn't say that. What he is saying is, if it continues, this is what I'm going to do. So I'm saying it publicly to put the rocket up you, and that's what we like about Antonio Conte. So, yeah, brilliant.
Oh, man. Marcus, come over to you. Another nice comment from Conte as we look to close the show. He says, I want to bring this team to think with a superior level, not to think in the middle, and that Tottenham I play every game. If you think like that, you won't fight for something important. We've just started this path with the club. He went on to say, with Richarlison and Son, Kane, Decky, Lucas Hill, who is a good prospect, we have good options. Richarlison was on the bench, then Decky, Son today after the international break. We have 12 games in a row. I will make rotations. So big words there from Conte. And once again, reiterating his commitment to the project, Marcus.
Ricky, the guy's a genius. I've been a Spurs fan for longer than I care to remember. And I know there's a danger that things will go wrong and he'll walk away very quickly. But to me, he's the best manager I have ever seen at Tottenham.
Wow.
And whatever he says, I'm going to take it on board. I think he's honest. I think that even the stuff he said about the Queen this week was absolutely spot on. He's a bright, clever, brilliant manager. So whatever he says, whatever he does, he has my 100% backing. I think he should have the 100% backing of every single Spurs fan.
Yeah, absolutely. Right, guys, we're going to close it on these comments here. Coming over to you, Marcus. And then, like I say, we're looking to close this one. He said, the only thing I ask of the players is not to drop their level. We need always a strong team and to fight for every competition. I don't care what happened in the past. I have my management, my own idea, and my story speaks very clear. In every situation I work, I lift trophies. It means maybe my vision, my work, my idea of football has to give credit. I don't want to compromise. I don't compromise for anybody. I go my way, and this has to be very, very important. And he went on to say, finally, I'm happy, and I repeat, this is not a problem. If we stop in this way, we have to play like this in the future, because all of the players, we all want to come off the bench because they think they'll score 3 goals. I'm joking, of course, but he then, like I say, makes it very clear from his perspective. He knows what he wants, and finally says that everything that I'm going to take is always an honest decision because I want to win, and I put my team in the best physical condition to win. Thoughts on that, Mark? Thoughts on that, TJ, as we look to close it?
That's Tottenham's manager, guys. That is Tottenham Hotspur's manager. We've never had a manager like that. Like Marcus, I've been a Tottenham fan for many years. He's by far and away my favourite manager that I've ever had. More than Poch, more than Birkinshaw, more than any of those managers. And also, he's the only global elite manager we have ever had. Ever. Now, I don't remember Bill Nicholson, and that's way before my time. I don't know if the game was as global back then. I don't know. But this is Tottenham Hotspur's manager. Whoever thought that we would have had a manager that says things like, I do whatever it takes to win, to paraphrase what he just said. This is Tottenham's manager, Spursy, soft underbelly, all that bollocks that we've had to endure over decades and decades and decades. Suddenly we have somebody who comes in and says, you win. You win. And my decision, I change it for nobody. And this isn't Jose saying that because he knows that everyone in the papers go, oh, you hear what Jose said today? He was doing that for himself.
Yep.
Do you see what I'm saying? Like, this is really for the betterment of the team, the betterment of the club. He really is a servant. Jose was a media whore. He loved it because it became so famous. He was more famous in Tottenham and more famous in the players, and he knew it. But this is really for the betterment of the team, to give us some steel, give us fortitude. And that's what you need to win silverware.
Absolutely. TJ, been an absolute pleasure having you back on Last Word on Spurs. TJ, where can everybody find you? I know you're very busy at the moment. It's top secret. Where can everybody find you?
Dude, Twitter, right? And I'm already looking up both Marcus and Sammy. Brilliant. I feel privileged to have been on the show with you guys. I always love coming on. You know that, Rick. And all the comments coming in. Yeah. I'll go back and rewatch it because, so many comments. And I'm sure, I'm animated, right? So when I'm talking, I'm waving my hands around and stuff. If people are saying
change. We love the hand claps.
I apologize.
TJ,
but a real pleasure. Thank you so much.
Bring him back. We love the handshakes. We love the hand clapping. Bring him back. TJ, always a pleasure. Sammy, you've been ever present through Last Word on Spurs this season. Always a pleasure. Thank you so much for your time. Sam, you're back on with us very soon. Thank you again.
Yeah, cheers, Ricky. We'll always remember where we were when this happened, won't we, with Son? And I'm very fortunate that I'll remember it was with you guys. We had a brilliant show. Completely agree with you guys on the panel, and I'm glad we connected. Hopefully, we're going to try arrange hooking up as well to go to the stadium. Aren't we, mate, and have some food? So we'll leave that to get sorted.
Absolutely. Sam, pleasure as always. Catch him, of course, Sammy Powell on the Twitter there. And Marcus, thank you so much for your time. As always, busy Last Word on Spurs. We've tried to, we're trying to trim it down. We've not trimmed it down, but 8 goals has killed us. Marcus, where can everybody find the wonderful work you do and how you provide us with some great Spurs content?
Well, you can find me on Prime Video. I'm still doing a lot of my tennis coverage there, football on IMG and on Gravity Media as well. And you can probably hear me just in Leeds city centre later screaming the name Heung-min Son just to wind up all the dirty Leeds fans.
Marcus, never change. Guys, thank you so much. There's been over 1,000, 1,100, 1,200 of you watching us live tonight. Absolutely insane as always. Thank you so much for all of your incredible support and love for Last Word on Spurs. We're not going anywhere during the international break. We've got some great shows to bring to you. So listen, from the wonderful Sammy Powell, from the majestic TJ Ramini, from the superb Marcus Buckland. Guys, as always, please keep safe, keep well, and as always, come on you Spurs.
Come on you Spurs.